Every year in fantasy football, you're going to come across guys that are left available in your drafts, and you're going to say, damn, this guy spited me last year, or that guy really did me dirty. I am not drafting him this year after what he did to me last year. Today, I'm going to break you out of that mindset. I'm going to take you and break that mold that you are convinced you should not be drafting these players. And we're going to go over 3 players that nobody wants to take, though you should be taking a chance on them in your drafts. Roll that intro. And before I start and give my 3 players we should be drafting, I just want to stop to say thank you so much to those that are subscribed to me. We've been getting a lot more subscribers lately since we've been uploading regularly on this channel. And I just want to say, if you are a supporter of this channel, thank you so much. And if you're not subscribed and not part of the Outlier Fantasy family, let's just all take the time to point and laugh and be like, ha ha ha, you're not subscribed, you're missing out. But in all seriousness, if you're not subscribed, what are you doing? Our first player that nobody wants to draft, but we're absolutely going to be drafting him, is none other than Maurice William Higgins, otherwise known as T. Higgins. T. Higgins was one of the few highly drafted in terms of draft capital and ADP that everyone is labeling as a bust for his wide receiver 51 and awful performance in 2023. Despite he only played 14 games and missed 3 due to injury. But now T. Higgins will be looking to bounce back and have a phenomenal 2024 season, and I'll tell you why. T. Higgins is on the final year of his contract with Cincinnati, so he's going to be looking for a massive payday. So the last thing that T. Higgins needs is another wide receiver 51 finish in fantasy where it feels like he had an underwhelming season. If he's as good as we believe he is and is going to get the bag in free agency, he's going to have to show up and show out in 2024 for the Bengals. And he will do exactly just that. And the reason why is because if we just extract his 14-game season where he was unfortunately injured and look at his other seasons as a pro, at least in terms of fantasy, he's never finished lower than wide receiver 28, which was his rookie season. And oh, by the way, that wide receiver 28 finish came in a season where Joe Burrow tore his ACL and T. Higgins had very poor quarterback play for the final 6 games of that season and still was wide receiver 28. So now, being that T. Higgins is the wide receiver 29 off the board in Underdog, we are getting an extreme value on T. Higgins just because 2023 was so poorly for him. So for those that want to use recency bias as a reason not to draft T. Higgins, or even personal reasons that they drafted him and were spited because of it, let those idiots believe that, because we're going to get a monster T. Higgins season, and we're just going to sit back and point and laugh at the idiots that said we want nothing to do with this guy in 2024. Up next, I know personally this guy absolutely spited me, and it took me a little while to even get behind this idea. So I understand the whole idea of recency bias and how it could personally affect how we draft. But the second player that we should be drafting on a value this year, and he's continuing to fall on underdog drafts, is none other than the Memphis native Tony Pollard. After a disappointing 2023 season where Tony Pollard was the featured back for the Dallas Cowboys, he is now going home to a place he's very familiar with and is going to get very comfortable playing for the Tennessee Titans. Despite him and Tyjae Spears both probably splitting the backfield, and Brian Callahan, the head coach for the Tennessee Titans, is claiming that they're both going to be starters, which we all know can't possibly be true. This isn't the 1970s where they're going to roll out 2 running backs in the backfield every play. Unfortunately, we know the reality of the situation is that both Tyjae Spears and Tony Pollard both excel at the same things on a football field, which is getting straight to the outside of the field, very swift runners, and neither one of them like to bruise inside for contact. This is still going to be a good situation to draft Tony Pollard just because of how low he's going in Underdog and his ADP rankings. Again, Pollard's going to be not too far from his hometown. If his family wants to go visit him, it's just a 3-hour drive to the stadium, and I know that sounds like a lot for some people. Me personally, living in the city, that does sound like hell. But for somebody out there that wants to go see their brother, their cousin, whatever, Tony Pollard's going to have the support of his family is going to affect him in a tremendous way. Given that he is going to split time with someone just as good as him in Tyjae Spears, I can't say that I feel good about him repeating as an RB14, which again, if I told you Tony Pollard finished as an RB14, you would probably sign up for that. But again, he's splitting the carries, he's going to be splitting the snaps, so I can't expect a top 20 finish. But even if he finishes right around RB25, on Underdog, he is the 29th running back being taken off the board. And that is highly likely to the fact that a lot of people used a first or second round pick on him last season. I'm guilty of that as well. And now nobody wants to take him because of how poorly he did, even though all that really happened in all reality is that he did not meet the expectations that we set in our minds that he was going to accomplish in 2023. Going into the 2023 season, there really was no world where you could get somebody like a Tony Pollard on a discount because he was on everybody's radar. So now we should be taking advantage of the fact that nobody wants him and he's RB29. So if you're going to go with an approach like taking a lot of wide receivers early in your fantasy draft, you can lean on somebody like Tony Pollard in a zero running back strategy. If you are looking to grab your wide receivers early, whether it's, like a Puka, Marvin Harrison, or maybe you're in the front of the draft and you want Tyreek Hill or Lamb, you can feel really comfortable about getting this running back on a discount. No, he's not going to have nearly as much volume as he did in 2023, but he has shown us with not as much volume, he can still be a super efficient running back. So let your idiot league mates cry over the recency bias and cry over the fact that Tony Pollard screwed them over last year, and let's draft Tony Pollard on a discount this year. The last player that we should be taking, despite a horrible season last year in 2023 and taking a chance on at least late in our drafts, is none other than the tight end for the Pittsburgh Steelers, Patrick John Freiermuth, otherwise known as Pat Freiermuth. Freiermuth easily had a disastrous 2023 season, and it only got worse once he went down with a hamstring injury and never really was the same when he came back. But his struggles could easily be chalked up to that, but also a combination of just poor quarterback play in Pittsburgh, as there was really nobody that got going last year in the Pittsburgh Steelers offense, unless your names were Jalen Warren or Najee Harris, who were very effective on the ground last year. Now adding a much more competent quarterback to the offense in Russell Wilson, who, whatever you think about Russell Wilson personally, he is definitely somebody that does not get enough credit for how good he played last season. But Deontay Johnson is also leaving this offense, so that means there are a lot of targets for somebody else to soak up in 2024. So why can't it be the highly athletic tight end, Pat Freiermuth, if he's going to stay healthy over the course of a full season? Freiermuth was the tight end 30 last year in fantasy, which is absolutely disgusting to say out loud and even just register into my mind. But prior to 2023, he was on the trajectory to be an elite tight end. So why would we discredit a hamstring injury, something that's not significant but obviously lingers over the course of a full season, and disregard him as having any more starting or even elite tight end potential in fantasy football? Like I mentioned with targets needing to go to somebody else, the Steelers also don't have a clear number 2 receiving option in their offense yet. So why can't it be somebody like Pat Freiermuth? Oh, and not to mention, it's probably going to cost you close to nothing to even get somebody like Pat Freiermuth this year. He's currently the 14th tight end being taken off the board on Underdog, and I could easily see a top 7, top 8 finish. But even if he finishes right at the back of the top 10, you're still getting an incredible value for what you're drafting him at. Which is just another reason why you should let your idiot league mates pass on somebody like Pat Freiermuth, who has the potential to break out again in 2024. And we've already seen the potential in the works in prior seasons before 2023. So there you have it. 3 players that are being negatively impacted by your league mates' recency bias, and we should honestly just be laughing at the fact that it's so silly to think that we shouldn't be drafting any of these 3 players. We've already seen them at their absolute best before, and just because 2023 was a hump in the road doesn't mean they can't get back to the stellar performances that they've given us in fantasy in seasons past. It's obviously not likely that all three of these guys are going to hit, but in terms of trying to find the three that I felt the most confident about having a bounce-back season in 2024, these were the three that I came up with, and I still feel strongly about all three of these candidates. But as always, thank you so much for watching this video. If you like fantasy football content and you want to see more content like this, feel free to hit the like button. It goes a long way in terms of getting my videos out to other people that want to watch fantasy football content, and it would mean the absolute world to me to see the channel grow and hopefully get more fantasy football conversations in the comments, because y'all are slacking on the comment section. Let me tell you, I answer every single one of these comments only because only 2 people comment, per video at most, but y'all are slacking on the comments. Do better. Do you think I'm an idiot? Do you think I know what I'm talking about? Let me know. That's all I have for you guys today. My name is Turtle. I'm signing out. I'll see you in the next video.